Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have 80% arms in the Second Amendment for the win, while a Fifth Circuit Court rejects the ATF rule. Now, 80% arms actually escaped a communist country. Well, some might call it a communist country known as California. It's fascinating. I've heard of it about a couple times. Joke, obviously, kind of. But they escaped California to come to the freedom of America, or even better, arguably, Texas. So now they're a Texas-based manufacturer of, as the title of the company would incite and obviously think, 80% arms. Now, an 80% arms or 80% receiver is a receiver in which 80% of the machining has been done by the factory already, and the end user completes the 20%. Now, I was going to say, I don't know if YouTube would just take the video down if I were to grab one off the shelf for display purposes, but it's an instance where if you ever look at an AR-15, the receiver, that's where all the pieces are joined together. And by the ATF and the US by the laws right now, that's where it is serialized. And if you buy a firearm from a federal FFL or Federal Firearms License, or if you are a professional manufacturer of firearms, it does have to have a serial number, and of course they tax it every which way. It's quite more abhorrent and disgusting if you actually look into all the taxes that are put on the firearms in the United States when our country is founded on it. But nevertheless, it's an instance where it's not complete. It's in majority of states it's treated as a paperweight. Because again, only 80% of the machining had been done to the material prior to the customer getting it. So people would buy that and they would turn it into a firearm, which the government has ruled, since I forget which actual ruling it is, but it's an instance where you keep that firearm, you don't have to register it, you don't need a serial number on it. It's your personal protection firearm. If you want to sell it, that's where legally you would be considered a manufacturer, and that's where you would need the government paperwork. You need to pay taxes on that. That's where really a lot of the regulation comes into place. Again, I'm not a lawyer, although I do own a suit. I would argue I actually have morals and values, but nevertheless, this is not legal advice. And the ATF started to sue. They started to claim, oh yeah, you know what? That we're going to consider that a firearm, even though again, it's a paperweight. You can't do anything with it until you finish manufacturing it, until you do that 20% of the machining, because you can't even put a trigger in it. It's literally just a receiver, but you have to hollow it out. There's no trigger there. Now, this comes to us thanks to, again, we're just going straight to their website, 80percentarms.com, and specifically they say, quote, the Fifth Circuit's landmark ruling in Vanderstock v. Garland striking down the ATF's frame or receiver rule marks a pivotal moment for the Second Amendment advocates and home firearm builders. This decision not only represents a win for 80% arms, but also reinforces the rights of all Americans to bear arms under the current legal framework. The court's ruling sharply criticizes the ATF attempt to expand the definition of a firearm, frame, and receiver, highlighting how such overreach could unjustly criminalize law-abiding citizens. By drawing an analogy to the cakes that look like food trend, the court illustrated the absurdity of regulating an item merely based on appearances. The victory, though significant, is not the final chapter of this legal battle. The Supreme Court's stay issued on August 8th acts as a temporary pause, signaling a continued battle in the courts. The court's decision, however, sends a strong message against the ATF's attempts to reinterpret laws beyond their intended scope, emphasizing the importance of staying true to the precise wording of the Gun Control Act. For supporters of gun rights and home firearm building, this case is a testament to the power of standing firm in our beliefs. It underscores the determination to challenge any overreach by agencies like the ATF. While there may be more legal hurdles ahead, the path towards upholding our rights looks promising. This victory is more than legal triumph. It's a reminder that, united in defense of our rights, we can stand against formidable challenges. This case is not just a win for the court of law, it's a win for the future of our Second Amendment rights. Unquote. Which, again, is very true. And if the ATF had their way, this business would not exist. And again, if you're a home firearm builder, or heck, if you're just any American at all, this company is a great company. I'm not paid by them. I'm not a brand ambassador. I don't get paid any kickbacks or anything like that. Just a fan of the product and what they stand for, which again is enabling and empowering citizens to defend themselves. And this is a huge, important piece of legal victory because, again, it would redefine everything as a firearm, which, again, is one of those things where that ripple effect or the domino effect, they're just slowly but surely trying to chisel away at our rights. It is fascinating to see the ATF increasing, just nice, I don't think it's a nice way of describing their unethical actions. But again, they're not supposed to pass any laws. But they've been reinterpreting laws to get their own way, which again is morally abhorrent and disgusting, which is why I highly recommend joining and donating to some Second Amendment advocacy group. Again, I'm not a paid member by any of the major ones, but Gun Owners of America is a great one. Believe that's probably the top one I keep hearing about. The NRA is, a lot of people pejoratively call them like rhinos, Republican name only. They've done a little bit for increasing the rights of the Second Amendment, but I think a lot of people associate them with compromise and not actually doing enough, like actually repealing stuff like the NFA Act and a myriad of other things that are chiseling away the Second Amendment. But nevertheless, I highly recommend joining one of those organizations because the fight is not over. It's going to be a long-term battle to win the war, so to say, or something like that. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December, so if you click that button, I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you could leave a comment, that's a great way to give me some feedback on how I can improve the channel or just improve my own speaking abilities or lack thereof. Any feedback is greatly appreciated because I do want to improve the quality of the show. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.